Welcome to the Noshing with Nina show. Today we are coming to you from Nice, on the Côte d'Azur, at the James Baldwin Conference. Bienvenue à Nice. And this is the beautiful Côte d'Azur behind me, that beautiful water. And stay tuned, we're gonna take you around the south of France. So, good morning from Nice. You see the Centre Universitaire behind me. So we're meeting here this morning to jump onto buses that will take us to Saint-Paul-de-Vence for the pilgrimage to the site where the James Baldwin house was. In fact, it's La Maison Baldwin that sponsors this conference. So it's very early in the morning, it's 7:30. I've had no coffee. So give me a couple of hours and I'll be presenting my panel this morning on James Baldwin and the internal closet. Stay tuned. The buses are here, so here we go. So we've parked as close as we can, and now we walk up the mountain the rest of the way. There's Saint-Paul-de-Vence in the distance. So here I am in Saint-Paul-de-Vence at the top of this mountain. I'm telling y'all, it is hot as all hell up here. These must be the hottest days of the year in the south of France. We should be out there in the Mediterranean. You can see it in the distance. But this is the ancient village of Saint-Paul-de-Vence, where James Baldwin lived toward the end of his life. Take a look at the hills. Very tiny, quiet town, and you could see how James Baldwin needed to be here for rest and relaxation, and to be surrounded by people who didn't bother him. You know, the people who lived here in the village, they loved him. as a resident, and this certainly was not an experience he had in the United States. So many young writers have come here, especially black male writers, have come to honor his spirit and just to be in the place where he lived. We're happy to be able to bring the Noshing with Nina show to the south of France and share with you some of this beautiful scenery.
To describe survived is important because so many trees were taken down. There was a whole row of cypress trees along this, very thick. So this is the original Bastide. There were two wings of the house. This is how this was earlier, probably 17th century, which is why they weren't allowed to knock it down. Had nothing to do with James Baldwin being there. The small one, this one right here, sticking up in the middle of this complex like a thumb.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a very low complex. You see all this vegetation you see is the roof. It's a vegetized roof. Let me stand out of here. You can get closer. There was another wing that was attached that came down. This guardhouse is original because it was the guardhouse of the farm. When I say Bastide is an old farmhouse. So the farm consisted of this property as well as the property next door, Hélène's place. And so they were, back in the day, they'd have animals down in the cellar, and then at some point a wing was built on there with more bedrooms, and that's the piece. That's really where his energy was, where he lived.
So if you were to visit him, would you come down a path like where this driveway is? Like how would people come down and say, "Hi, James, I'm here," kind of thing?
Yeah, there used to be a path. That was the front door.
Right.
The front little door that you see there was a path that went straight to the front door as you should, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So this was the official one.
Yep, this was the gate.
What's in the remaining building?
If you would like to see more clips from the Noshing with Nina show, make sure to subscribe and click on the notification bell. I'll be presenting my panel first thing in the morning, and of course I'll have books on sale. So it's going to be a very exciting day, and hopefully I'll be able to share with you some nice footage. I'm telling you, because of COVID, I had to leave my staff behind. Some of them weren't vaccinated, and they weren't able to travel to France, and it was most unfortunate because the James Baldwin Conference was originally planned to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Jimmy's arrival here in the south of France. But thanks to COVID, it was postponed twice. And now it's finally taking place in June of 2022. So we're able to take advantage of this gorgeous weather and enjoy the hospitality of the people of Nice and the people of France. Vive la France! This is Shannon Kane, the mistress of the James Baldwin Conference, and the woman we have to thank really for having access to his papers and his dictionary and the space here where his house used to be. She was squatting in that house to keep them from tearing it down. Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you, Nina, and you're welcome.
So tell us a little bit about the conference and your involvement with it.
The conference has been in the works for 4 years. We delayed for COVID in 2020 and again in 2021, and here we are, finally, after a lot of planning. Almost 150 academics and activists and scholars are here talking about James Baldwin in the place where he lived for 17 years.
Fantastic, fantastic. And what are your plans for the continuation of the La Maison Baldwin?
Sadly we lost our residency center in the pandemic, but we are planning to get one back up open again in next year. We have our Writers in Residence program that has now welcomed 10 writers from the US and Africa for 1 month residencies in Saint-Paul-de-Vence, and the place that inspired James Baldwin and his work. So we'll continue the residency program. We have 7 more people coming next year. And we're going to reopen that Welcome Center and have a place for visitors to Saint-Paul-de-Vence to come come learn about James Baldwin. And the pilgrims, those are our favorite kind of tourists, the ones that already knew that he lived here, and they're coming to look for some community and someone to talk to about James Baldwin and learn about his life here.
Absolutely. Now you were saving his house when they just wanted to tear it down and turn it into a parking lot or something.
Well, I tried. Yeah, I tried. We tried. We gave it a good effort.
You were sitting in there, really risking your life, being by yourself, and I hear that, you know, whenever you would leave the house, they would try to lock it up on you.
Well, I wasn't exactly risking my life. I mean, I'm a white woman. Nobody was going to kill me.
Well, there
They
you
probably
go.
weren't even going to arrest me. When they did come to the door when the police showed up to kick me out, I was very, very cognizant of the fact that if I had looked anything like James Baldwin, I would not have been treated with the same respect. I mean, they yelled at me, but they also respected the law. There's a French squatter's law that gives you a right to stay in an abandoned building after 72 hours of occupation.
Wow.
So I had what they called a symbolic barricade in front of the door, because the door had been broken open in any case. There was no door. It was like swinging on its hinges. So I put up some construction debris to make my symbolic barricade and pointed out to the cops, c'est une barricade symbolique. This is French for symbolic barricade, and they were okay. And they didn't come into the house.
Very good. Vive la revolution.
And so I stayed there for 10 days. Until they finally caught me. The owners of that property caught me, and I was actually in my undies when they walked in.
So they weren't. His family didn't own the property.
No, his family hasn't owned the house. Well, James Baldwin was never the owner of the house.
Okay.
He was almost. He was late on his payments at the time that the owner of the house died, and then the whole situation went into a court battle where eventually a distant relative of the owner inherited the house and won it in a court case against the Baldwin family.
People don't realize it's a place for pilgrimage for young writers who just want to be in the space where he lived, you know, to breathe the same air that he breathed, to drink the water that came through the tap. I mean, they do that for where Mozart lived, where Beethoven lived, other writers in France. I mean, just the fact that he was a Black American man, he doesn't deserve this honor of pilgrimage?
There's not one plaque in Saint-Paul-de-Vence with James Baldwin's name on it. There's not one statue. There is no public recognition of his presence in this town.
Wow. No, they're going to have to rebuild that house and designate it as the James Baldwin House. Also, I understand his family is keeping some of his letters from being released.
There are letters that the Schomburg now has that are under a 20-year seal.
Because he writes to his gay friends.
I don't know. We don't know what's in those letters.
Well, we need to find out. Y'all need to open up those letters. You're keeping historians and future writers from having access to some very important work. Thank you so much, Shannon. Thank you for
Nina.
all your work.
Thanks for being here.
And we'll keep you posted on the Noshing with Nina show. Ciao, ciao. So, Prince, tell me who you are and what the award you just recently won. Tell me about you.
Yeah, I am a writer that grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. I've lived in Columbus, Ohio the past 4 years. I've done a lot of grassroots organizing with Black queer communities, Black communities, anarchist communities, and I've done a lot of freelance journalism, but I have a memoir coming out later this year called When They Tell You to Be Good. And a part of that book won the crossover award from the Hurston Wright Foundation. And it comes out October 4th with Tin House Books. And you should pre-order it.
Yeah, give the website.
Well, my website is princeshakur.com. But if you look up When They Tell You to Be Good, Tin House, you'll be able to find it on their website or anywhere else and pre-order it.
Yeah, I watched him perform. He's amazing. Now, tell them the award you got from the Baldwin, La Maison Baldwin.
Well, from this org? Well, this is more like a residency, but it's basically an artist residency. I got into it in 2020, but of course the pandemic happened. Basically, you get to stay here for a month. They give
Here
you
in Saint-Paul-de-Vence?
Yeah, here in Saint-Paul-de-Vence, which is in southern France.
Just behind James Baldwin's house?
Yeah, and they give you a place to stay. I'm in this cottage here that's 1 bedroom. It's all to myself. You get a kitchen, bathroom, meal stipend, travel stipend, and space to write and to hang out and to sit down in some of the places that he sat down in. I mean, every couple of days I meet someone that knew James Baldwin. Like yesterday, I met a drunk Frenchman that was his gardener, and he introduced me to one of James's closer friends that I'm actually meeting up with dinner for tonight.
All right.
But yeah, it's like there's history all around in that way, but also there's just like a very creative community, and I've also met like other young people my age that make art here. So it's been really, I don't know, in that way also nourishing, like meeting kind people that just want to talk and be open. So, yeah.
All right, Prince, we're waiting for you to blow up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Coming.
Thank you.
Stay tuned. So this is my last day in Nice, and I'd like to share with you some thoughts on the James Baldwin Conference, which I survived in one piece. It was exhausting, but very, very gratifying. I met some people who I'm sure will be friends for the rest of our lives, and people who are very passionate about the writings of James Baldwin and other American Black queer writers. I came here with a suitcase full of books, sold all of them, every last one. I don't have one left. So I'm really grateful to the people of La Maison Baldwin for making it possible for me to share my own work, my own literature. Our panel yesterday on the internal closet was very successful. In fact, I was told by the director that my panel was one of the best panels of the conference. And you know, I spoke in very honest language, very sincerely, about some of the issues haunting James Baldwin as he neared the end of his life and his search for companionship among his friends and the isolation he felt within his family of origin. It was something that people came up to me afterwards and thanked me for being able to share what I had learned really as a result of agreeing to participate in this conference. This wasn't an academic conference at all. These were people who were lovers of literature. They weren't necessarily professors or teachers. A lot of them were, but everybody wasn't. You know, there were people who simply love James Baldwin and what he represents as a Black American man of his day, trying to balance being a celebrity and being in the closet after writing something as explicit as Giovanni's Room, and then needing to backtrack at some point. I think, I learned at the conference myself for the first time that he had been asked by some of the leaders in the civil rights movement to tone down his queerness and to leave his boyfriend in the background and not to bring him around to the forefront of these events, even the March on Washington with Martin Luther King. So he was a very complex character. You know, he was very ambitious and wanted as much success as he could have as a Black American man. And then when he came here to France, he really saw an opportunity to escape from all of the weight that was loading him down, the weight and the baggage that he carried with him from America, and to more or less start again. And here he was embraced, as many other African American celebrities were. So I've enjoyed my trip here, and I'm very much looking forward to coming back and maybe spending some more time. Stay tuned.